All right, I'm going to do my best to try and film taking you guys along with a thread insert repair. There are lots of different varieties of these out there. The one that I tend to use has got, I don't know if this picks up on camera or not, but it's got, in addition to the regular thread inserts, it's got these kind of knurled ends that when you're done, you take a tool and it expands those knurled edges out to grab the material as well. So outside of just the Loctite that we'll use, you've got one other little method of trying to keep that insert in place. These are not necessarily permanent. They do a pretty good job, but they absolutely can come back out. I've seen it happen. My only other word of caution would be, so this comes with it's like a thread chaser slash tap all in one that, kind of, you start on the old threads, and then it bores itself out to make the new larger section for the thread insert. And a lot of guys talk about doing these like actually on the engine, and you can fill these voids with grease to help pick up the shavings as you're running it into the cylinder. And then they either use compressed air or vacuum to try and clean out the chips afterwards. And I guess, like, if you're absolutely stuck and there's no other possible way of going through that with, maybe it's a really difficult engine to work on or something like that, I guess fine. But if I had my druthers, I would absolutely take the cylinder head off. That way you can be assured of getting everything cleaned out. But so in any case, all we're really going to do is kind of run this down in, and create ourselves a new recess. We'll clean that out, insert the insert with some Loctite, bang it in, and that should be it. So since I've got some of this AMSOIL lube that we'll just kind of give ourselves a little something to start with. You just kind of, since your threads were damaged, you want to kind of find, where she's going to make home, I guess, without a whole lot of difficulty. That feels like it right there. Yep, she's going in pretty easy there. So, and then there are different size. So, like, depending on what size spark plug you use, there are different size inserts, different thread pitches, all that kind of stuff, and obviously different taps accordingly. For the BP MR 7As that are standard in most chainsaws, this is a 14 millimeter by 1.25 thread pitch, and you're working on a pretty shallow head, so you're not putting a great big insert in, or you'll actually run it down into the cylinder to the point that you could have contact issues. So in any case, then you just get yourself a wrench here and or a socket, whatever, and you just kind of work her on in. Obviously, you want to make sure you try and get this as straight and lined up as possible as you can. You want to keep this in reference to stock to the best of your ability, and then obviously you got plastics and stuff like that that have to fit back in. If it were me, I would kind of run it in a little. This is how I do regular tap too. Run it in a little. Clean out your tap portions. Run it in again a little further. Looking good. Okay. This one's going to be for the money. Gonna take us all the way in. So this is actually creating the threads now for the insert itself. Okay. That's all the way in and through. Looks great. Okay, now I'm going to clean up the area itself with some brake cleaner, and I want that to be good and clean before I install the Loctite. I am using red on this application just because this is a very high heat and sensitive piece that I'm not anticipating this coming back out. If this guy continues to have issues keeping this in place, it'll be time for him to replace the cylinder head itself. So this is, by the way, this is very common on 500i's and 661s are the ones. This is a 661. Those are the two that I see it on the most. This can absolutely happen on other units as well. You do need to check your spark plug occasionally and make sure that it stays tight. And it's actually one reason to replace your plug too, is because that crush washer, at some point loses its crush factor, I guess. So in any case, you absolutely need to be checking your spark plugs occasionally. I'm amazed at the amount of people that tell me they've never checked it in their life, or still running the same plug, which is fine if you're still running the same plug, but you should still check to make sure it's tight. Vibration does crazy things and will walk these things right back out. So, all right, we are just going to put some of our red Loctite in. Hard to get a hold on. Oh, come on. Oh, I might chase that one more time. There we go. Just need something to grab it a little better. Okay, so we're getting down to that kind of knurled section. You'll feel it. I mean, it's going to start grabbing because that's what it's supposed to do at that point. Then you're going to take your swaging tool, which is just going to expand that section and kind of force it into the surrounding metal, and that's what's going to also help make it bite. So get her seated on there. You hear the change in the tune of the tool, right? So it tells you're kind of seating her home at that point. That's it. So you now have a repaired plug. So also, again, if it were me, I would start with a brand new plug, so you're not dealing with anything that had, boogered threads on it, or maybe it wasn't going to grab to its, full potential, etc. But then, make sure you clean everything up, and I'll flip the cylinder over and make sure to clean it all out too. So, yeah, that's all there is to it.